Hello everyone, very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to BYJU'S exam prep. My name is Savitri Krishnamurthy. Today I am going to take you through the critical reasoning section of XAT 2023. What kind of questions are asked in critical reasoning? What is the best approach to it? So in a brief session, we're going to look at concepts and we are going to solve some questions. As you know, what is critical reasoning? You are given a short paragraph and you ask certain questions. The aim or the objective of reasoning is to see if you can logically solve the question that is asked. So the given paragraph is called an argument, right? It has premises, it has an assumption, it has a conclusion. The basis, the facts, the evidence that is given to you is called the premise. Oh, sorry, let me go back. Yeah, is called the premise of the argument. The conclusion given by the author, the resting point of the argument, is called the conclusion. And the line of thought that takes an author from the premise to the conclusion is called the assumption, right? So what is our approach? Good afternoon, Amrit. What is our approach to any critical reasoning question? Well, we put it, hello Kamal Kant, we put the cart before the horse. In reading comprehension, we tell you read the passage first. But in critical reasoning, especially in XAT, we tell you look at the question first. Hello Mranal, namaste. We look at the question first. And what would the questions look like? Let me just tell you. First, obviously, identify what happened to my pen color. Okay, identify the premise of the author. Not asked often in XAT. Identify the conclusion. Not often asked. But what can you conclude from the passage? Which means your own inference. That is asked. Or they can ask you to strengthen the author's argument. That means strengthen the conclusion, because the resting point of an argument is the conclusion. So when the question says which of the following if true, sometimes in CAT and GMAT they don't use the option if true, CAT and XAT and other exams. In GMAT you know a strengthen question based on the if true. That means they are giving you additional information. If the additional information given to you is true, will it make the conclusion stronger? Make you say, yes, your conclusion is right. That is what strengthens an argument. So it looks like another premise, another fact, another piece of evidence that has been given to you to say that the conclusion is correct. So for example, if I say, it is cloudy today, it is going to rain. Now many of you will say, hey, come on, it is cloudy, it's going to rain, it may not rain also. But if I now say it is cloudy today, the last 15 days, whenever there have been clouds in the sky, it has rained. Now this makes you look at my conclusion in a different light. This extra information has made my conclusion that it's going to rain today stronger, because I told you in the last 10 days, whenever we've seen some dark clouds in the sky, it has rained. Therefore, today also it's going to rain. That is a strengthening question. What is a weakening question? The exact opposite, but generally it works. It turns out to be a little different and more difficult than a strengthening question. What you have to do is just say that this, basically what happens in weaken an argument is, they give you options and the question says which of the following if true most weakens the argument. Correct? So in an argument, remember, the resting point is the conclusion. You have to weaken the conclusion. You should not weaken the premise. Okay, so if I say out of the 100 people who attended my session, 95 said critical reasoning is easy after the session. Look at me, I've become an egoist. Now you will say, no, 100 people did not attend the session. That is not correct. I mean, generally that's the last resort to weaken, to say your premise itself is wrong. You have to say, okay, 100 people attended the session, 95 said it was good, but these 95 just said it so that they could get out of the session. or whatever. So basically you say your premise is correct, but the conclusion you're drawing, saying I am the greatest, my session is the greatest, is not necessarily correct. They put that like there because they wanted to leave the session and they could not leave the session without, putting a like button. I hope that's not true, guys. Okay? Alright. So that would weaken. You have to say that your conclusion has not been drawn from the premise. Alright? So these are the most common type of questions. In addition to that, in XAT, you get something called complete the argument. Again, a very common feature of GMAT 2, where an argument is given. You look at the flow of the argument and you say, if this has happened, A happens, B happens, B happens, C happens. Therefore, you now look for something which will connect A, B, and C to a logical D there. Okay, and in addition to that, in XAT, they give you the conversations. They give you a dialogue between A and B. And then they ask you questions. What is some of the options would be based on what A is saying, some of the options would be based on what B is saying, or they will ask, what is the connection of B, what B is saying to A? He is refuting, he is supporting, he is contradicting, whatever. Okay, so these are the common questions asked. There may be sometimes a question on resolve the paradox or method, but we'll be looking at these type of questions today, starting with the first one. I will give you about 45 seconds to a minute to solve the question. Read the question first. What is the question asking you to do? Then read the argument. Give me the option when I tell you time is up. Then I will solve the question with you. Clear? Let's start. What is the right answer? Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Mark your answers. All right. Key in your answers. Let's see. Key in your answers. Which do you think is the right one? Doesn't matter if you're wrong. Then we'll read it together. Let me see some answers before I explain. This question, you have to use a pen and paper if you want to get the answer. What is not clear, Vandana? The font is not clear. It's quite clear. The question isn't clear. The font, it's asking you, according to the above paragraph, which of the following options will be true? What is the meaning of the question? Vandana, must be only for you because others have not complained. Why don't you refresh and come back? Maybe things would become better. Try. All right. Yeah, others. I see answers for A and C. Let's see. So what is the question asking you to do? The key is to understand what the question is asking you to do. The question is asking if the above paragraph is true, which one is definitely true? It is asking you what is the correct conclusion or inference, because an inference has to be 100% true based on what's given in the passage. So we have to now know what are the facts given in the passage. What are the facts given in the passage? The size of an oceanic wave is a function of the velocity of the wind plus the length of the surface of water subject to those winds. Second one says the impact of waves. So this is the size of waves. Second says the impact of waves against a coastline is a function of the size plus the shape of the sea bottom. The degree of erosion on the coastline is a function of average impact and the geological composition. Got it? We have the three factors. All right, now let's see. The fetch of wind is related to the shape of the, now size of oceanic is related to the velocity of the wind and of fetch. What is the fetch dependent on? He hasn't told us, so A is wrong. Clear, Kamalkant? Size of the wave depends on velocity of the wind and the fetch and something something. Don't ask me the meaning of those terms. Those are geological terms. We are not bothered. We just know the terms. We know size of a wave is dependent on A and B. What is B dependent on? We don't know, right? So A we cannot say is the correct answer. The size of oceanic waves will not fluctuate far from average. He hasn't said how they will fluctuate, whether they will fluctuate far from the average or very, we don't know. So B is irrelevant anyway. The size of oceanic waves is correlated with the shape of sea bottom. Is it? The size is velocity of wind, length of surface. That's it. Size is separate. Impact of the waves against a coastline. So size and the shape of the sea bottom, these seem to be two disparate sentences. Maybe there is a relationship with the argument hasn't told us. It's just told us size is based on velocity, the length of the surface of water subject to those winds. It hasn't connected it with average impact and therefore anything else. Therefore, C is out. By drawing a line diagram when you are reading the passage itself, whenever I say an if A, then B, only if A, then B, then C, you know it's enough to confuse you. So the moment you read that, you start making notes on in your rough paper and you will never go wrong. This is meant to just confuse you. There's nothing in the question. Then, degree of erosion is not related to the velocity of wind. We know that the degree of erosion is a function of impact of waves and the composition of the coastline. Whether the composition of the coastline includes the velocity of the wind, we know what it is dependent on. We cannot say what it is related to has been given to us. That does not mean you can draw an inference on what it is not related to. Just because you introduce a cousin to me, you say, oh, he's related to me. I am related to A, B and C. Doesn't mean I'm not related to C, D and D. I have just not mentioned it. So you can't say anything about D. Whether the erosion is related or not related to the velocity of wind, we do not know. E, degree of erosion. Now, degree of erosion is dependent on impact of waves, average impact of waves and geological composition. And what does average impact of waves include? Size and shape of the ocean bottom. Therefore, degree of erosion is related to the shape of the sea bottom. Therefore, my correct answer is E. Was it difficult? It just required patience. It just required writing down, just like you get in maths and DI, given. This is what is given to me, this is what I have to find out. So you just have to make a quick line diagram in telegraphic language, not in detailed cursive language, then you'll be losing a lot of time. But whenever you get a whole lot of facts, A is related to B and C, C is related to D and D kind of a thing, immediately know. If you're a pea brain like me, if you can remember it mentally, fantastic. But I can tell you, even Einstein would have to write it down, because under exam stress, you can make mistakes. And the examiner is always waiting for that opportunity when you're in a hurry to mark it. Therefore, use the rough paper, quickly write it, get your answer, and you will not make a mistake in these kind of questions. They're actually very easy. In hindsight, it looks easy, right? Good. Let's look at the next question now. All right, again, I will give you a minute, okay, a little less than a minute to answer this question. All right, key in your answers. Start keying in your answers. I'm seeing 2 answers for C. Okay. 3 answers for C. Ashwin, Amrit, Mrinal think it's C. What do the others think? A manager seeks approval for conducting a training program. Not a bit relatable. Come on, look at the question. Question is easy. It says least likely to have a logical fallacy. Which one looks sensible? All others will have some fallacy, some kind of exaggeration, wrong assumption, unsupported assumption, some fallacy related to it, right? So which one is the most sensible is what he is asking. A manager wants approval for conducting a training program on openness. So he gives an argument. He gives all these arguments. Which of these doesn't have a fallacy in it or is least likely to have a fallacy in it? A. We did a pilot training program with a group of employees. Post the program, one of the participants, right? Too small. Why only one? Why not more? Fallacy there. Very small. The numbers are not supporting. That we should, are not suggesting that doesn't justify having a training program. This program will be good for our organization, all right. Why? It is designed by a leading consultant. Leading consultant in what? Right? Just because it is designed by a leading consultant, what is he? This is called wrong appeal to authority. One, we don't know what that leading consultant is leading in, right? Number 2, that can he really design a course for openness which is good? Is it implementable? Is it good for our organization? So there are other parameters. Just because he's a leading consultant, successful lawyer, doesn't make him and his designed program need not be the best. So that is the flaw here. Internal studies, yes, they showed openness increases innovation. Therefore, let's have a seminar on openness or let's have a program on openness. D and E, the guy is just pushing his weight around, saying, look, we have 2 options. You can either do it or you don't. Suffer the consequences. What kind of argument is this? Right? You should approve if you care about the organization. Why? Right? So these 2 look like those weak arguments which are not giving any reason. Therefore, the correct answer is C. Easy question. All right. This is a type of question that I wanted to show. And many people make a mistake in not reading the question and understanding what it wants. Next question, read the question first, then answer. All right. Again, I'll give you around 40 seconds, 40 to 45 seconds. All right. Key in your answers. Let's see. Short question. The paragraph wasn't big. Paragraph was pretty easy. Just 2 statements. But like Indian batsmen, the shorter guys are the bigger hitters. So here it's a problem for some of us, because he's asking about which of the following is true, and answers are based on assumptions. So give me your answers. Anything. What did you think is right? And then I'll explain it. And if you are enjoying the session, do press a like. Let me see your answers quickly. Doesn't matter if you're wrong. Ashwin thinks it's B. Akhil C. Kamal B. All right, let's see. All right. Offices and positions for the marginalized section should be open to those with greater savings among them. All right. Now I'll just tell you what is the assumption here. We're not looking at the options. We're just looking at the question. If we had asked only what has been assumed in statement 1, how do you figure out the assumptions? Offices and positions for the marginalized sections should be open to those with greater savings among them. What is the assumption implicit in this statement? When I make a statement, the assumption should be from my point of view, not from yours. All right, so you can't say the author supports savings. You understand? Because it should be taken from my point of view. If I say I'm not going to explain this question to you, some of you would think she doesn't know the answer, that's why she's saying this. But that's your opinion, that's not my assumption. If I say I will not explain the answer to you, my assumption is you have a doubt in this question, you want an explanation for this answer. Got it? So here when he says that it should be open to those with greater savings among them, he is assuming that the marginalized sections have savings. He's assuming that. You understood? Then the second one, those with no, Mrinal, exactly that is what I wanted you to tell me. He doesn't believe that those with lower savings should not be given opportunities. That's called the obverse. If I say honesty is the best policy, you understand? It does not mean dishonesty is not a good policy. I have not said anything. He has not said anything about. So assumption is the basis of a claim. The claim is that those with greater savings should be given greater benefits, whatever, offices. He has not mentioned anything with those with lower savings. So that lower saving answer that you're giving is an inference or a conclusion on your part. It's not the assumption I am making. I have not said anything about those with lower savings. So assumption is what thought process has led me to say this. My thought process is he's got savings, so let's give them. You understood? So the obverse of the statement, those with lower savings should not be given, is not part of my argument. All right? So that is the second one. Says offices and positions must be open to everyone based on the principle of fair opportunity. There exists the principle of fair opportunities. That is number one. Second one, that people can access these opportunities are open to everyone. That is the assumption. Now when you look at it, you don't have to do it in the exam, but I'm just saying that's how assumptions work. Which one is true? Statement 1 assumes that the marginalized sections are incapable of saving. No, it's assuming that they have savings. They are capable of savings. So this won't be an assumption. Statement 2 assumes that all citizens are equally exposed to all opportunities. Now, many students in this particular, this was a way back XAT question paper. Okay, when you have a teacher with so many gray hair in her head, so many gray hairs on her head, so much gray hair, both are correct by the way. We'll go into the language part of it later. At one time I could tell which year's question this is, but now I can only tell you this was a past year's XAT paper, 2005, 2007, way back, before you people were born also. No, not like that. Okay, so basic question here is that equally exposed, many thought this equally nahi chalega. Equally doesn't work when in the case of an inference or a conclusion, if that's not there in the passage. Now when I am saying it should be based on the principle of fair opportunity, I am assuming everyone has access to those opportunities. So equally exposed to all opportunities is a correct. Here equally is not an extreme word. I am making that assumption only then I'm making the statement that it should be based on fair opportunity. You understood? So I am assuming everybody has that opportunity. Everybody has it equally. Some are not getting it more and less. I'm saying it should be based on this to be. Therefore, this is 2 doesn't contradict meritocracy. 2 is in favor of meritocracy. 2 assumes that citizens are equally intelligent. Intelligence is not a factor. Assumes that marginalized always depend on subsidies. Where is the subsidy here? Alright, therefore answer is B. Clear? Okay. Assumption questions, remember, you identify the conclusion. Your assumption is an option which supports your conclusion. You have to step on the assumption to make the conclusion. The author thought of the assumption before he made the conclusion. Got it? If I say Shreyas Iyer and who's the other one? Who's the other one who hit so well? Not Samson, before him, yesterday's match. I forgot. Okay. Shreyas Iyer and Mr. X. Both scored, Shreyas scored over 90 and the other guy scored a century. Both scored centuries, let's assume, and therefore we won. Ishan Kishan. I got the name right. Okay. I got a little help in the studio. Okay. Ishan. Absolutely. How could I forget? Okay. Ishan and Shreyas got the century. Ishan hit 90 odd. I watched it. I only watch such matches. I don't watch matches where India loses. No. Even if it's a close fought match, I can't watch it. Kaam bahut hai, I have that to do. Yeah. Both of them scored centuries. Therefore, India won the match. Alright. So, what is my assumption? When Shreyas and Ishan score centuries, India wins matches. Whenever they score centuries, India wins matches. That's my assumption. So in assumption questions, you take the conclusion and you look at an option which makes the conclusion correct. That's your assumption. Alright, and students normally get confused between assumption and an inference. An inference is one step away from what has been given. Alright, let's look at the next question. Okay. You can key in your answers. Typically, I want you to give your answers in 45 seconds, max 1 minute. Yeah, let me see your answers. E. Kamal says it's E. What about the others? Divya, Mrinal, Akhil, Ashwin. Quickly, give me your answers. What is the question asking you? Reinforces the author's view. That means supports the author's view. Which of the following, if true, supports the author's view? What is the author's view? That's the first thing you need to know. You rephrase the author's view correctly, you will get the support statement perfectly. This season will pass. The Prime Minister may not win the Lok Sabha elections. She may not continue as the Prime Minister, or she may. Now this person seems to be following the wrong order. We normally say tick-tock. Therefore we say may or may not. But this person seems to have put it the other way around. May not or may. The country will survive whatever the texture of politics in this decade or the next. The Prime Minister may win or not, but the country will survive whatever the texture of politics in this decade or the next. The country will survive regardless of the texture of politics. Prime Minister may get elected or not, the country will survive regardless of the texture of politics. Survival of the country is independent of the texture of politics. Got it? If you got that right, you will also get your answer right. Which one reinforces that view of the author. The survival of the prime minister, no, the conclusion is talking about, remember, the author's view, the main view is the conclusion, not the support statement. Support statements talked about prime minister, Lok Sabha elections, but the conclusion says the country will survive whatever the texture of politics in this decade or the next. So the survival of the prime minister is not going to reinforce the conclusion. It's only just, the country has a vibrant young working population, irrelevant. The survival of the country depends on a dynamic, growth-oriented prime minister, not on the texture of politics. Contradicts the author's view. Many of you got the answer right. The previous season had also witnessed similar political uncertainty and the country survived, right? Many of you gave E as an answer. The survival is dependent on the political texture. He is saying no. It's independent of the political texture. So E is not the correct answer. Therefore, the correct answer is D. Clear? All right. So now what lessons have you learned about the CR section of XAT? Get the argument, you've got the answer. It's not difficult at all. But you have to spend, I'm giving you 45 seconds just so that you read the passage properly. Do it in a hurry and you're in trouble. And XAT, it's a game of questions, right? Number of questions. You really need to work fast. All right, start with the question 5. Look at the logic of the argument when you do that. Start. Take a dash 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 after us. All right. It'll take you a little longer. Key in your answers. Give me the question number, easier for me. Mrinal, Akhil, on the right track, but I don't know if you are right or wrong. Ashwin, do you think you are correct or Ashwin is correct? D and B I have. Okay, so what do you think is the right answer? Majority says it's D. Mrinal and Akhil so far. What about the others? And Ashwin thinks it's B. Do you think Ashwin may be right? Ashwin, do you think Akhil or Mrinal are right? All right, this is a case of understanding the logic, the flow of the argument, and often this takes longer than normal questions, right? Kanchan, confused between B and D, but which one do you think is better? Now, nothing to do with the tone, nothing to do with the tone. Mrinal, the idea, what is the main idea? Let's look at it. Trust, if you understood his definition of trust, you'll get it right. Trust is a particular level. See, this is the problem you'll face in the exam also, ma'am. B or D. A miss is as good as a mile. You can't write to the examiner. No, it's B or D. Examiner also, if he is in his right mind, wouldn't give you 5 options. Actually, the examiner makes 1 correct option, then he has to make 4 wrong options, and that's the biggest headache in the exam. So he'll make 1 or 2 quite close. After that, he just writes ridiculous things. The 5th option I make, not necessarily E, but the 5th option I make in any answer key would generally be rubbish. something which even a child can say, ये तो गलत है. So the key here is, look at the argument. Trust is a particular level of subjective probability with which an agent assesses that another agent or group will perform a particular action or job. I told you, in critical reasoning, they just use bombastic language. How are you going to beat them at their game? How are you going to hit sixers like Ishan Kishan? When you put it in your own words, make it simple. Anything short pitched, I will hit. Anything which is too full, I am going to hit. So here, what is it? What is trust? It's based on your assessment of the probability. So you are looking at it and you are assessing what is the probability that you are going to do something for me. That is the basis of trust. The probability with which an agent assesses that another agent will perform a particular action. What is the probability that you will do something? So that is that assessment. Trust is a level of that assessment. Understood? Next, when we say we trust someone or that someone is trustworthy, the same thing is being repeated. It's not anything new. We implicitly mean that the probability that he will do something for us is dash dash dash. ये हमारे लिए ये काम करेगा. That's all. It's very high that he's going to do your work for you. That's all it means. Now, where did aggression come from? Did it say that it is based on your assessment that that person will not do you any harm? Did the passage say anything about the lower level of harm? So here you are again looking at the other side of the coin. I told you, honesty is the best policy, inference or assumption. Neither can be that dishonesty is the worst policy. So if your trust means the probability that somebody else is going to do a particular action for us, the higher the level of trust, the higher you think is the probability that that person is going to do the action. So how can it be that lower the level of him hurting you? So this is the other side of the coin. So hurting and attacking is not given as part of the passage. So how will you complete the argument based on that? Because you are thinking too much. You are thinking 10 steps ahead. So what is the right answer now? Definitely B. Cannot be D. There is no aggression. There is no confusion. Understood? Clear? If you have defined trust properly and if you have simplified it, then it is B. Clear? So in the exam, you should be thinking like this, because otherwise that word has been given. This is an out of scope word, alien word, not there in the passage, therefore not likely to be. But synonyms are not alien terms, remember. So one student last year told me, ma'am, you only told if it's not there in the passage, then the answer cannot have that option. But the answer option has given synonyms of what has been given in the passage. How can that not be the answer? So don't literally say, you said this, therefore I'm following it. All right? Okay, next one. All right, you can key in your answers. Can I see them? There is a blue bar. Quickly vote and let's finish that vote. That blue bar. Okay, otherwise give your answers and I have to move up the answers. Okay. Give me the answer for question 6 and write down the name, question 6, number 6. Okay, that way I can ask my camera person, my tech man to just, I think Ankit only, thank you. Oh, again. One second. The chat has disappeared. One second, guys. 1 second. The chat will come back. I can see you. I can see your responses. Right now, I can't. Yes, it doesn't matter. Let's just scroll it. Ah, thank you. All right, let me get the answers. Give me the question number. 6. Kamal thinks 6 is E. All right. What about others? Akhil, Mrinal, the rest. Where are y'all? Question 6. What is the right answer? If you have given it before, please give it now after Kamal, because there is a bar there with the poll, and I think only the source can remove it. You probably tell Ankit to remove it. Just send a chat and tell him to remove that. Or just answer the poll so they can remove that. I can't see your answers. Okay, I could only see Kamal's answer. Let's move on. I hope the others can also key in the answers. In the recent past, the Indian football team has lost most of the matches in international football. Okay, Mrinal's answer is C. The Indian football team has lost most of the matches in international football tournaments. All right, how sad. The most successful coaches in Indian club football tournaments are from Latin American countries. Really? In most of the Latin American countries, football is a more popular sport than cricket. From the passage above, choose the correct option. Now, when you look at the options, it's all about what can be definitely concluded or not concluded. So then you know that what are the facts given to us. Based on the facts, what can you say is 100% true? Doubt ki gunjaish hi nahi hai. There's no way you can doubt this answer. Then only you have to choose that. All right. Indian football team has lost most of the matches. The most successful coaches of the club football tournaments are Latin Americans, and in Latin American countries, football is more popular than cricket. These are the 3 facts given to us. Based on this, can we definitely conclude that in India, cricket is more popular than football? We know it is. But according to what is given to us, can you conclude definitely that in India? It is only told us what is the case with Latin America. So one cannot be concluded. It can be definitely concluded that most Latin American countries are successful at football. We only know about the coaches coming here. We also know that there are good football tournaments happening there. We also know they are crazy about football, but that's our knowledge, not this argument. So B is not correct. It can be definitely concluded that in the recent past, coaches of Indian football teams are not from Latin American countries. The fact that Indian football team lost, we don't know why. We don't know anything about their coaches. Nothing has been given here. We only know in clubs they have Latin American coaches. So based on that information, I can't do this either. It can be definitely concluded that European football coaches are less successful than their Latin American counterparts for the Indian national team. Where did it tell us that we had European coaches for the Indian national team? Where did it say anything about having Latin American coaches for the Indian national team? We only know that the club teams have Latin American coaches. Maybe they're talking of Mohun Bagan, East Bengal. I don't know. Club teams, not the Indian national team. Nothing has been given to me. So I can't definitely conclude. So I will go with the option that is left. We cannot definitely conclude that the more popular a sport, the better the chances of producing a successful coach in that sport. Now, many of you did not mark E because you did not see it cannot be concluded. This particular year when this question was given, I left this question. I did not see the cannot. I said it can be definitely concluded. How can you definitely conclude? And that's how I fought. Even when the answer key was out, we challenged. And then we realized it cannot be concluded. Definitely can't be concluded. Now, option A, B, C, D are what can be concluded. But E, because the examiner was in a particularly bad mood and wanted to trouble the student, is what can't be concluded. Can be my answer anyway. We can't definitely conclude anything from this. So good, great. All right, so E, we can't say anything about quality of coaches based on the quality of the sport. Not true where Rahul Dravid is concerned. But anyway, all right, we have a good team, we have a great coach too. All right, question 7. A good one, tough one. Okay, I forgot to note the time. Therefore, I've read the argument, I've read the answer options, I decided it's time. Okay. Okay, again remember, meaningfully follow the above paragraph. Does it mean complete or doesn't mean give a kind of conclusion? The next logical sentence. Got it? Read all the options. Many think it's A. So far all A's. And if there are two different mathematical formulations, how can you say that it is the same mathematical formulation? Those of you who've said A kaisa hua? On what basis are you saying that it will be? A and B are two different mathematical formulations, and then you say that A and B started as different mathematical formulations. It's like me. I'm repeating myself. Summary of summary. So how can it be A? Tell me. Modern quantum mechanics began with two different mathematical formulations, and then you are saying the two approaches did not start with the same mathematical formulations. Ka matlab kya hua? Cannot be A, right? Take the theme of the paragraph and the last statement and then decide which is the next one. CAT used to have a lot of these complete the passage questions. XAT uses it in its CR. CAT may ask it as part of your RC. So Rajat, take the entire passage, take the last sentence and then decide. Those are the only two clues we have. Using that, would you say it is C or would something else work better than C? And then decide. I'm going to give you all a little more time because you can figure this out. I don't know what he's going to say next. How would I know? That's not your attitude, right? Theme is this, last sentence is this, which is logically the extension. Ashwin thinks it's B, so I've got A, B, C so far. Okay. Rajat, would you agree with B or stick to C? All right, let's start. It's not A because A is just a repetition of the first statement. Got it? All right. Now B, let's leave B. Let's just go to C. Okay. It says it's a curious historical fact that modern C is the most common wrong answer. And you say, if B, why not C? Correct? So we'll just look at it. It's a curious historical fact that quantum mechanics began with two quite different mathematical formulations. What were they? The differential equation of Schrodinger Schrodinger and the matrix algebra of Heisenberg. The two apparently dissimilar approaches. What does that make it? They look different. The apparently dissimilar approaches were proved to be mathematically equivalent. So wouldn't the next sentence say how they were proved to be mathematically equivalent? Which option does that? Not A, but B does. These 2 points of view were destined to complement one another. They are mathematically equivalent. They were destined to complement one another and ultimately done that in this transformation theory. Always the theme and the last sentence in any complete the passage. In CAT kind of situation, if just a descriptive passage, then only it's just the logical extension of the last sentence, otherwise theme and last sentence. Now, in D on the other hand, in C on the other hand, you are talking of Feynman, Heisenberg, integral calculus, ho sakta hai, but not necessarily. Did I miss something? Lots, Roshan. 7 questions you missed. Let's do the next 3. Got it? Did everybody understand why B? Right? So complete the passage. I've only taken 1, though they are my favorite questions. We will do it some other time when actual XAT also. We will have last lap for XAT, I'm sure. When in the CR, we will do these. Alright, now 8 and 9 are based on a passage. No, it's okay. I hope you watch the session, the rest of the questions, solve them and then look at the answers. Alright, do 8 and 9. Let me look at the time carefully. Alright, 51:35. I'll give you a minute to read this part of the passage and then I'll ask you questions. All right, you read the passage, all of you? Clear? Can I show you the first question? Yes? This is the first question. Which of the following statements, if true, would weaken the underlying logic of the above passage? Now, what do you think that means? Underlying logic. What is an underlying logic? The assumption made by an author, underlying logic. Which one would weaken that? So, what is the underlying logic of the author here? First paragraph, he says, we're not only afraid of being in the dark, we're suspicious of being kept in the dark. We feel that the universe has a hidden order we can't comprehend. It started with the Greek myths, conspiracies, acts of gods, any conspiracy event. So it started with Greek myths, and now any event that happens, we call them global conspiracy. We don't call them acts of God. We say this is some conspiracy, so they must be the work of other people. People must be putting these together. All right, and they are keeping the rest of us in the dark when they are doing this. Among the events attributed are political assassinations and UFO sightings. Examining these events in minute details results in a long list of coincidences which in the minds of the conspiracy buffs are too numerical to be truly random. All these coincidences are too many, and based on this we can't say these coincidences are random. Then there must be somebody who's planning all these coincidences also. Now the last sentence is the key. Better to think that we are being kept in the dark by sinister forces than to admit there is no order. So what is the author's assumption? What is the underlying logic? all these sinister forces we are assuming is wrong. There is no order. We are hiding from the fact. We are avoiding the fact that there is no order. That is that there are no sinister forces at work. These conspiracy theories are not at work, and we are only using these as excuses because there is no order. It's easier to talk about sinister theories than to talk about having no order. Roughly, that's the assumption. We have to look at options which weaken these underlying this assumption of the author. So which ones do that? Now you have options 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 4, 5. So now give me your answer. I have made the assumption clear for you. Now you have to look at each of the options and see which one we can set. Quickly give me your answers in 15-20 seconds. 25. Is it the first one? So basically, two things underlying assumption. We don't have order. These conspiracies, sinister theories are just an excuse for us to, before we admit there is no order, right? These are just stories and excuses, right? So the human need for order is an highly exaggerated notion. Here the author argument is strengthened. We don't have an order. Or is it weakened? What is it doing? The need for order, he is saying just the thought that we don't have order. So if you say, what is the need for order? Our need for order is highly exaggerated. The author is saying we don't have order and we are using these sinister forces as an excuse for being in denial that we are not in order. They're just an excuse. So this one will weaken his thought that the need for order is exaggerated. Why are you talking about order? So that will weaken his claim. Right? Second one, the universe is less guided by pure randomness than by well-defined natural processes which are subjected to randomness at varying intervals of time and space. Now, what is this talking about? We are less guided by pure randomness will strengthen his argument. All these random things are done by people. Randomness is not happening. So that doesn't weaken his claim. To strengthen their case for a variety of conspiracy buffs are extrapolating from a very small set of observed coincidences. How will this weaken it? He is saying there are too many conspiracies for us to call it coincidence. There are too many coincidences for us to believe that they are coincidences. There's so many happening that we have to believe that people are doing it together, right? So this will then, the person propounding different conspiracy theories are usually novelists. So it's not like people are putting together these conspiracy theory. They're only the novelists who are people in general are not doing it. People with some sort of vested interests are not doing it just to keep us in the dark. Only the novelists. Therefore, 1, 3 and 4, therefore it is C. Got it? Kamal Kant got that right. Next one. Which of the following statements 8 is correct. Next one. Which of the following statements, if true, strengthens the case for the belief in sinister forces and conspiracy theories? Which one says, yes, there are sinister theories, forces and conspiracy theories at work? This should be easy. Look at the options and give me the answer for the penultimate question of the session. We just have one more remaining. Yes, there are sinister forces and conspiracy theories at work. Though science has progressed a lot in the last 2 centuries, it is unable to explain more than 80% of the phenomenon. So for the other phenomena, we use our sinister forces and conspiracy theories to explain them away. So that will strengthen. Why? The one that science cannot explain will give rise to any kind of theories, so one strengthens it. There is now the existence of photographic evidence for the presence of UFOs, and a growing number of parallel studies shows that the human mind can easily be manipulated. Yes, that also shows that all the evidence they will show, and then you manipulate into thinking, look, this is it. So there are lots of theories abound. So second one works. Yes, D is the answer. Okay, all of you got that right. 1, 2 and 4. Okay, 1, 2 and 5. No, not God, but the fact that Darwin and his evolutionary theory has been criticized. Now somebody else will come up with new theories. They make up their own theories. Therefore it is D. All right, excellent. All you have to do is understand the passage well, right? Okay, last question of the set. Good one. Something more recent. Let's see if you got that right. Read and answer this question. I'm writing down. I got a piece of paper just to see if I'm giving you enough time or not. Emotional, not P here. What can you interpret definitely based on the passage above? What can you interpret? What can you infer based on the passage above? What, based on the facts given in the passage? Give me your answers. Music probably does something interesting. Okay. Explains neuropsychologist Catherine Loveday of the University of Westminster. It stimulates the brain in a very powerful way because of our emotional connection with it. So what does music do? It stimulates the brain. It has an emotional connection with us. Unlike brain games, that means brain games don't do this, music does this. What is that? Playing an instrument is a rich and complex experience. Brain games are not a rich and complex experience. Playing an instrument is different in that it's a rich and complex experience. This is because it is integrating information. When you play an instrument, it's a rich and complex experience because this process of playing is integrating information from senses like vision, hearing and touch along with fine movements, which can result in long-lasting changes in the brain. This can also be applicable in the business world. So now 4 statements have been given to us. Plating nahi hai, sorry, this is playing. Playing a musical instrument is a unique experience involving vision, hearing and touch. Has he said anything about unique? That only playing a musical instrument does this to you. Is it unique? Not the word unique here is what makes this not correct. Instrumental musicians are more creative than vocalists. He has introduced, he has changed. The scope of the argument has been changed from playing a musical instrument vis-a-vis brain games to playing versus vocalization, vocal music, no, irrelevant. Playing brain games does not integrate various senses and movements as much as playing a musical instrument. Right, playing games is not as complex and is not a complex, unlike brain games. This is a more complex and experience, he says. So playing brain games is not such a complex experience. So C is correct. Integrating 5 senses, it's critical. No, it's useful. Whether it's critical, you don't know. Critical, he didn't say. Those of you who marked E, He said this can be applicable in the business world. Where did it say it is critical in the? You can apply it, does not mean it's critical for that. Did you see the difference? The word here is applicable and you read applicable as critical, which is wrong, which is a critical point to note. Therefore, it is only C. It's the correct answer, not C and D. I knew even as you people were marking E, I understood why and how. All right, so that completes a set of questions for today. Join us for the NMAT analysis on 12th of October. Those of you who are taking NMAT, going to take it, useful to know what kind of questions. Attend. Those of you who are taking CAT, I am assuming all of you are, follow our IIMB past year paper questions. Those of you or your friends interested in CAT 2023, we have a fantastic comprehensive program for CAT 2023. Join that and avail benefits right from the beginning. Also, we have a test series in case you just don't want the full course, only want the tests. Then we have a fantastic set of mocks, topic tests, section tests. All right, and do join us for our last lab to CAT 2022 starting from 17th October, 7 p.m. daily. All right, I hope you found this session useful and enjoyable. I found it both. I found it really, really fun doing it for you. We'll see you again very soon in another session. Until then, work hard. Okay, stay cool, stay safe. Bye-bye.